What's up, MMA fans? I definitely had to come on here and get the Ultimate Fighter 5 predictions in here. Definitely a week away. Actually falls on my birthday, the 23rd, so gonna be going out the 22nd, and I definitely gotta be home to watch these fights, so I kind of had to flip-flop a little bit. Plus, seems like a little bit of a birthday gift from the UFC putting it on my birthday as well, so thought I'd throw that in there. I also had a opportunity to look at this card, and it's interesting. That's obviously dominated by lightweights, which it should be. A few of the fighters that aren't fighting were from the show. Obviously, Rudiger isn't invited to fight with the whole weight debacle, the whole drama king stuff that he pulled in the show. Definitely, I don't think he'll be invited back to the UFC for quite some time. Marlon Sims, Noah Thomas, blackballed, blacklisted, what have you. Don't think we'll be seeing them in the UFC anytime soon. And one interesting guy that's not on the show is, on this card, is Corey Hill. Figured they might have thrown him on here, but maybe he's getting some seasoning. They felt like he needed some more training. Definitely a guy who would benefit from getting coached up, maybe from a guy like Jeremy Horn, as mentioned on the show. So we'll see what happens with him. But a few of the undercards are interesting. Joe Lozon, Brandon Melendez. I think Lozon wins that fight. Cole Miller, Andy Wang. I think two good jiu-jitsu guys. I felt like maybe he could make Wang go to the ground possibly and use his jiu-jitsu, but I think Cole Miller wins that fight. Emerson versus Gray Maynard. Two guys who kind of gas at the end of fights, who really start off strong, kind of gas. Emerson, striker. Maynard, a wrestler. I picked Maynard to win that fight. Trains with Couture. Doesn't have that much MMA experience just yet. He only had 2 pro MMA fights prior to getting onto the show, so I think that Maynard's got a ways to go in his training, but he looks like he could be a promising fighter. Alan Berube, which is kind of interesting because he was kicked off the show during the whole Marlon and Noah fight for instigating. He's on this card, but UFC is going to feed him to Leonard Garcia, who arguably had Fight of the Year candidate easily with Roger Huerta, who's also on this card. I think that Garcia wins this fight any way he wants. Probably buzzsaws through Berube in the first round. Berube, admitted it as much himself. He only got into fights and got into doing the MMA thing to promote his restaurant, and he acted like it and he fought like it on the show. But nevertheless, Garcia, easy victory. Brian Geraghty versus Matt Wiman. Wiman wins this fight. I think he's fought stiffer competition, more well-rounded. Geraghty, seemed like a deer in the headlights on the show, and I think once he gets under the lights of the UFC, where Wiman has been once before, he'll buckle again, and I think Wiman wins that fight. Now on to the main card. Few names that we know, few that we don't, but that seems to be the theme of the UFC as of late, pitting unknowns against guys who are a little more established. But we've seen the dog jump up and bite a few of these guys in the butt before, so it could happen again, but don't know. We'll see what happens. First fight, Tallest Lightest against Floyd Sword. Don't know much about Floyd, although he has fought at 205 before this. Only fighters of note that he has fought that he both lost to was Marvin Eastman by a decision and Bobby Southworth from the first season, The Ultimate Fighter, by a KO. Now he's fighting Tallest Lightest, who's coming off a win against Pete Sell back at UFC 69. So Lightest is a good jiu-jitsu guy, improving stand-up but more dominant jiu-jitsu, even though him and Sell got into some pretty good exchanges. I think Lightest wins this fight, probably by a submission if it goes to the ground. First, second, definitely I give this fight to Lightest easily. On to the next fight, the aforementioned Roger Huerta, the other fighter, along with Leonard Garcia, Fight of the Year candidate easily. Probably another Fight of the Year candidate was just happened was Spencer Fisher and Sam Stout. That'll be another Fight of the Year candidate easily once 07's all said and done. But he's taking on virtual unknown Doug Davis, 5'6" MMA fights, undefeated fighter, hasn't fought anybody of note. Couple of KOs, couple of submissions, couple of decisions. But Huerta's been fighting very, very good opponents for a long time now. Has only lost once in his career. Just has shown his heart and toughness time and time again. From what we've seen of him, trains with a very good team in the Militich camp. Don't really see Doug Evans winning this one. Huerta by however he wants, KO, submission, first or second. And, the jitters of the UFC could jump up and bite Evans, or he could flourish. But I think Huerta wants to go out and impress, because I think if my thinking is correct, next time we see Huerta, he'll be fighting maybe Joe Stevenson, somebody along those lines, for a #1 contendership for that 155 title, because he's definitely an exciting fighter and somebody I think the UFC would like to see get the push and hopefully get a title shot. But nevertheless, Huerta by, like I said, stoppage, submission, first or second. Now on to the final. Nate Diaz against Manny Gamburyan. Nate Diaz, a guy that we all saw making it to the finals, the younger brother of Nick Diaz, definitely cut from the same stick as his older brother. Tough guy, doesn't seem to be rattled under the pressure, has good stand-up, has very, very good submission skills. He was running a clinic on Emerson. I kind of felt bad for him the way he was just transitioning in and out of submissions. Eventually caught Gray Maynard in a submission, caught Corey Hill in a submission, and Gamburyan seems to have gotten that blanket tag put on him as of late for his style. Likes to lay on guys, ground and pound them, control, keep them on the ground, and that's a very effective style. He trains with his cousin, Karo Parisyan. And I thought it was a little unfair what they did on the show. I don't know if many of you thought the same, but I thought it was a little unfair, because the way I look at it is you're all in the house, you all have to sort of go by the same thing, you train with your team, but for then an outside source like a family member to come in who's also involved in MMA, and to the point where Karo Parisyan is, I think it provided a huge morale boost for Gamburyan. Take no credit away from him. He still had to go out and win the fights and perform, which he did, but I think that it really provided, just a huge boost of confidence for him to have Parisyan there in his corner. It'd be the same as Nate Diaz having his brother come in and corner him for one of the fights on the show. I felt that it was, just a little unfair for the guy he was fighting, which was Matt Wiman, but Gamburyan did win that fight. Take no credit away from him. But as to this fight, Gamburyan could take Diaz down probably. I think Diaz on the ground, his last pro MMA fight was against, kind of ironic, it was against Hermes Franco, who's fighting for the 155 championship at UFC 73. He lost via armbar. Now he's fighting for to be the Ultimate Fighter for the UFC. It's kind of amazing. I think Nate Diaz wins this fight. Gamburyan takes him down, and Diaz, eventually catches him in something. He has really good transitions. He has some good stand-up. Seems to, pop shot guys on the feet. Great length, great reach. Manny's a very short guy. Likes to flurry with short arms, but I think Diaz will be out of his range, so that won't be an effective weapon for him. And pick Nate Diaz to win this fight, probably a submission, second or third round. On to the final. The two coaches, and this is not a first, but it's a first in the sense that they're fighting on the final card, not in a pay-per-view, but on the event, on the final show itself. It was done prior with Tito and Shamrock. That was done on a pay-per-view. The first season, Couture, Liddell on a pay-per-view, this on the show, which is kind of a cool twist to throw in there. BJ Penn versus Jens Pulver, much like their first fight. BJ coming in as a huge favorite. Pulver was given little to no chance to win the first fight. He was able to pull out a tough 5-round decision. I think he was a different fighter back then, had a little bit more of an edge to him, has become a bit of a knockout victim as of late. Hayato Sakurai, Takanori Gomi, he just seems to get KO'd a little bit easier than than it would be to knock out an elite fighter. And I think BJ, you just don't knock BJ out. You can stop him, you know, Matt Hughes did, but I just don't think Jens has got the game anymore to hang with BJ in a 3-round fight. BJ wins this fight again, however he wants. He could KO Pulver first round. He could submit Pulver, no problem. I don't think that I do give Jens a lot of credit. I hope, you know, he came prepared, and I hope we see a 3-round war. I hope we see these guys go out there and put on a great performance. But I just see BJ just being on a different level. His losses are against Machida, GSP, which is a controversial loss, and Matt Hughes. You don't do too much, and obviously Jens Pulver. So yeah, that's not too bad of a loss resume if you're going to have one. I just think that they're just at different points in their careers where Jens is kind of maybe done in terms of his career. And because you could just tell by the way he talks, he kind of talks about, you know, handing the torch and just moving on. Doesn't really seem like he has the passion for it anymore. As where Penn, I think he really does have the passion for the competition and the sport. And I think we'll see that in the fight. And I think Penn wins this fight either by KO or submission, first or second. Well, hope you guys enjoyed the predictions. Sorry I had the long delay in them. Didn't mean for that to happen, but finally got them up here. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your week. I'm going to be doing UFC 73 predictions probably tomorrow, so be sure to look out for them. And until then, you have a good one and take care.